all like to think that in the face of crisis, we would be a leader, an impartial source for the rest to look up to and take influence from. But truthfully, even the smallest acts of unkindness can define you as a person if you are unwilling to recognize these aggressions and change them. Nimona is a Netflix film by directors Troy Quane and Nick Bruno that explores the faults in any society and shows the dark effect of being shunned from a community for your whole life. Now, I never pay much attention to voice acting when watching an animated film. In fact, I can't even remember the last time I watched an animated film and thoroughly analyzed it, but I couldn't help but notice the enthusiastic voices of Chloe Grace Moretz and Riz Ahmed, and of course, Beck Bennett, who voiced arguably one of the best comic relief characters I've ever seen. And normally, I hate when movies try to master the modern age. They use technology and in a way that no one does, and they create teenagers that are such Gen Z stereotypes. But I like that this one strayed away from that. Nimona is such a lovable character, and the use of technology and its being in the modern age only enhanced the film because it was accurate as to how quickly news can spread nowadays, and in what way it does. I think my favorite part of this movie, though, had to be the action scenes. And mainly because I think they told such a story by themselves from start to finish. That first fight, we saw Nimona thrilled to be who she truly was. She wasn't ashamed, and she was incredibly brave. And while Ballister was unsure of her approach, she still went through with it because it didn't matter. She was sure of herself. So the way that they changed his characters is definitely apparent because in the final battle scene, Nimona shifting into a dark monster embraced who they all thought she was rather than who she truly was, and thus she became a shell of someone she once was. She let them win, almost, before Ballister came to her rescue, showing his progress with how he has now formed a friendship with her and how he has found his own bravery, most likely because of his experiences with her. I was also in awe of so many of the cinematic shots during the action sequences, and especially the use of color archetypes. Nimona is a really bubbly and quirky teenager, and although a little bit messed up in the head, but just adds to her complexity as a character, she's still a kid. She's full of energy and hope, and this is why she's associated with the color pink. So in my last review, I talked about pink meaning childlike innocence and a sense of naivety, which is definitely apparent in Nimona's character. Ballister, on the other hand, is associated with the color black. The color black usually symbolizes an evil and darkness within a person, which he did not have, but others thought that he did. But unlike Nimona, Ballister did have little hope for himself, and I think he had little hope for the future. But that all changed when he met her. Now, when Nimona started to feed into what everyone else was calling her, that's when she kind of lost that spark, that hope, that innocence, just for a moment, shape-shifting into a black monster during the final battle rather than her usual bubbly pink creatures. Now, Nimona and Ballister, I thought were perfect foils. They complemented each other so well, and I thoroughly enjoyed their almost sibling-like banter and the way that they formed such an unlikely friendship. Ballister's relationship on Ambrosius, on the other hand, was a rocky one, though they found happiness in the end. And of course, all romantic relationships are going to be rocky, probably more than friendships. But definitely throughout the film, it just showed Ambrosius's lack of trust for his partner, probably because of the manipulative tactics of the captain and how he was just raised to think of people who were different or seen as bad. And that definitely showed Ballister's hurt over being betrayed, that his lover didn't believe him. I just remember one scene at one point of the film. Ambrosius and Ballister were standing face to face, but a spotlight was hitting Ambrosius, and Ballister was in the shadow. So this kind of symbolized how Ambrosius was put on a high pedestal and seen as a hero throughout the film, while Ballister was seen in a negative light. Now, I am a sucker for a good romance movie, but I am so glad this one focused more on friendship and more individual storylines and what it means to trust someone in a more platonic way, with Ballister's relationship with Ambrosius being more of a side storyline. Because I always just adore movies that are focused on love and relationships, but not necessarily romantically with another person. Like, I love Lady Bird for the mother and daughter relationship. I love Perks of Being a Wallflower for the love he found from his friends. And I even love Legally Blonde for the relationship she found with herself and her own self-respect. And although Nimona mainly focused on her friendship with Ballister, I did like how much we got to learn about just her character, her individuality, her backstory, and why she turned out the way that she did. Honestly, and this is controversial, but at first I did think her character was kind of annoying and weird. But I couldn't help but love her once I got to know her, and then I realized that that's exactly what the people in the town did, is they just judged her before they even got to know her. And instead of try to understand her perspective, they instead decided to just ridicule her. And they viewed her as a one-dimensional monster. Now, the way the connotation of Nimona's shape-shifting power changed throughout the story is kind of tragic. It began as a fun and harmless way to escape her body and experience new things. She almost embraced being different and didn't see it as a bad thing. But by the end of the story, she just used it to have power over those who bullied her for this ability. And I'm realizing now that this sounds like it could be a win. It sounds like she has the upper hand because she's finally more powerful than those who have brought her so much pain. But, does she really have the upper hand? Because in the final battle, she could have fought back. She could have won, but she didn't want that power over her citizens. She wanted to be equals with them. But that would mean having to hide who she is. And this is exactly why treating someone who is different from what a society may be used to and urging them to assimilate into society's standards is incredibly harmful and just plain ineffective. Without those who are different, we would literally have nothing. We would have no art, no innovations, no stories like this, no flaws, no experiences. It's no fun. It would just be so bland. So why do we all try so hard to fit in when being our authentic selves is what will benefit everyone the most? It's what will benefit society the most, and most importantly, it's what will benefit us the most. And I think the answer to that is because we also tend to ridicule people for being themselves. I think it's so complicated because especially women, we are trained to act and think and speak and look a certain way, and we are raised to see those who don't act this way in a negative light just because they're a little different. But really, everyone feels different sometimes. Whether it's in a big or small way, we all feel like an outcast in some level. So I think we tend to outcast other people in order to make ourselves feel a little better about feeling a little different, even though there's nothing wrong with feeling different. It's what makes the world work.